So today I'm going to be making creamy, cheesy, saucy baked ziti. Now, this is probably not a traditional way to make baked ziti. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's not traditional, but it's the way I like to make it. It's so good. Here we go. So to get started, I'm going to work on the meat sauce for this recipe. Here in a medium-sized pot over medium-high heat, I'm adding cooking oil. Now you could saute onion and garlic, but I'm just going to add my lean ground beef. I'm going to season with onion powder, garlic powder, dried Italian herb blend, black pepper, and I'm going to mix that in. Now before I forget, I'm also going to add around 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. By the way, if you want the recipe and ingredient list, I'm going to put a link below where you can check it out on my website. My ground beef is cooked. I'm going to add a 32-ounce jar of store-bought pasta sauce. I'm going to add a half cup of water to the jar to get some of that leftover pasta sauce left in the jar. Pour that in, give it a mix, combine well, bring to a gentle simmer, and I'm going to cover with a lid and let this gently simmer for about 30 minutes, and you'll want to stir in between the cook time. And that's it. That's the quick and easy version of meat sauce. Now I'm going to show you a bechamel sauce. This is easy, you just have to work with a low heat. So a heavy bottom pot, low heat, I'm adding 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm going to melt that down slowly. You don't want the fat to separate from the butter. You don't want any separation. Now I'm adding 3 tablespoons or equal parts all-purpose flour, and I'm going to mix that, combine that, and let it cook over a low heat for a minute. Now you want this gently bubbling on the edges, nothing super foamy, not like a gravy. And I'm going to stream in around 2 cups of room temperature whole milk. And again, working with a low heat. If it bubbles violently, then you need to turn down the heat. I'm going to whisk, whisk, whisk. This is the part where you feel like your arm's going to fall off, but don't let up. You've got to whisk. I cranked up the heat just a hair. It's still on low. And you're going to just whisk and let this heat and gently simmer until it coats the back of your spoon. It's going to take some time, like 10 minutes. But this is perfect. I'm going to grate in just a pinch of freshly grated nutmeg. And I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Give it a mix, combine. The heat is shut off at this point, by the way. And that's it. This is a beautiful white sauce that adds creamy texture to this baked pasta dish. So I have boiling water. I've added salt. Give it a mix. And now I'm going to add 1 pound of ziti pasta. I'm going to give that a mix, and I'm going to cook this until al dente, around 6-7 minutes. I don't want to overcook this because it's going to bake in the oven. So this is right where I need it to be, and I'm going to drain this. I'm going to take 1 cup of my meat sauce, and I'm just going to carefully pour this into this measuring cup. And I'm going to add this to my cooked and drained pasta. By the way, do not rinse your pasta after draining it. You want it sticky and tacky. You don't want to rinse off any of that starchiness that's on the pasta. Now a half cup of Parmesan cheese, give it a mix, and this is ready. So I have my meat sauce ready, and it's kind of been hanging out, but it's perfect. Here I have my bechamel sauce, and as you can tell that it did thicken as it cooled, but it's still perfect. Now I'm going to be using 3 types of cheeses. Parmesan, I also have a pound of ricotta cheese and a pound of fresh mozzarella cheese. So now it's time to build this pasta dish. I'm going to ladle in some meat sauce on the bottom. I'm going to pour half of the prepped pasta. Now I'm going to just tear pieces. My mozzarella cheese came pre-sliced, but I'm just going to tear pieces and scatter them into a layer, a flat layer. I'm going to go in with maybe a 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese and just sprinkle it on top. Now I'm going to dollop a 1/3 of the ricotta cheese. I'm going to have 3 layers of cheese, by the way, so kind of divide it as best you can. So a 1/3 of the bechamel goes on top of that, and I'm going to finish this layer with half of the meat sauce. And then you'll want to repeat that process again. So at this point, I'm going to ladle on the rest of my meat sauce, and this already looks good. Here's the last layer, and that is the last layer of cheese that's going to top this. And I'm only using mozzarella, the rest of the ricotta, and the rest of the bechamel, and I skipped out on the Parmesan, but you can sprinkle that on. But this is ready for the oven. It's going in a preheated oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes. Once you remove it from the oven, you'll want to let it set for at least 15 to 20 minutes. I know, but it really does set up quite nicely. And of course, as usual, I dive into it even before letting it set. So I'm gonna garnish with some fresh flat leaf parsley and dive in. So again, you guys, if you want the recipe and the ingredient list, be sure to check out my website, simplymamacooks.com. I will have the link in the description below. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.